Okay, so sorry about that. The last recording ended abruptly because my eyes were really watery. Okay, so again, I have this the picture of the symbol of the cross and the all-seeing eye up. Again, to reiterate, the reason why I put up these symbols is because these symbols have been hijacked by darkness. The all-seeing eye does not belong to the Illuminati, nor does it belong to any other dark forces in the universe. It belongs to those who are awakening, whether they're from source or whatever, because eventually everything and everybody realizes that it is literally source. And this is the basic message of self-identity that has been being hidden from us or being manipulated. We are literally that which we worship. Some of us worship, and some of us serve in the sense of helping at a grand scale. So this eye is the third eye, or some people call it third eye, that lets you see beyond the physical. The cross is a crossing from one dimension to another dimension. In a way, some people call it a burden because some people are helping each other, and it's a weight of, either for yourself. It's heavy. You're crossing from one level to another. So in this video, we're going to end the analysis of A.J. Miller of Divine Truth by looking at soulmates. The best way for me to do this is to look at and to give personal examples where these are not happy stories at all, but the picture here isn't so clear cut because free will has to be exercised to understand what the whole soulmate thing is about. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a picture of the video on soulmates here by A.J. Miller. Okay, I have on the screen my wife, but we won't talk about her too much. Let's move on to A.J. Miller. A.J. Miller soulmates. There we go. Please play. It says the Human Soul series.
Along today. Good to see all of you again. After 5 weeks for many of us not seeing each other. Did you miss me? Yeah. Well, a lot of people didn't miss me. It's a bit warm in here if the aircon is going off. I'll just adjust them.
Okay, so he is going to talk about soulmates, and he's going to give a fairy tale version of it. Like, this was reminiscent of Hans Wilhelm. I caught a feel of Hans when I was listening to this. It's almost Hans when he talks. It's as if he were talking to children. In a fairy tale kind of way. So let's skip ahead to where AJ talks about the soul splitting. I know I heard somewhere along the way that he is the entirety of Jesus Christ, and now he goes back and says that he is half because Mary is the other half. 14 minutes.
And by soul, I'm talking the whole soul here, not one half of the soul, which you are. I'm talking about the combination of the.
Okay, so he is one half of the soul, and Mary is one half of the soul. The entire thing is whole. Okay, so let's look at that a little bit more, and then I'll go into personal experiences and anecdotes and so forth.
Two halves. Because remember, how God sees you actually is not how you're currently seeing yourself. How God sees you is as this one soul, even if you're in two different physical forms. When I say two different physical forms, once you incarnate, your half of the soul is attracted to a physical form and a spirit body form, and the other half of your soul is attracted to a different spirit body form and a different physical body form. But from God's perspective, you are still one soul. Does that make sense? Ask questions away, by the way, and microphones, if we can have one over here.
But he is talking about physicality in this case, though, isn't he? Let me just rewind that. Did I miss something?
Body form, but from God's perspective, you are still one soul. Does that make sense? Ask questions away, by the way, and microphones, if we can have one over here. If you leave your hand up so that all of it. Combination of the two halves. Because remember, how God sees you actually is not how you're currently seeing yourself. How God sees you is as this one soul, even if you're in two different physical forms. When I say two different physical forms, once you incarnate, your half of the soul is attracted to a physical form and a spirit body form, and the other half of your soul is attracted to a different spirit body form and a different physical body form.
Okay.
But from God's perspective, you are still one soul.
Okay, alright, I didn't miss anything. Okay.
Ask questions away, by the way, and microphones, if we can have one over here.
Makes sense, okay. So his level of analysis, of deception.
So does that mean one person's soul can only progress so far? Like just say one person reaches the seventh sphere and the other person refuses to do anything, that then one person can't go on until the other person starts to move on?
And it does mean it to a degree, but if I can describe where it stops for one person. You remember
Okay, we're going to move forward. So basically, so far he said that he is half of the soul, and Mary is half the soul. So the next element to be analyzed here is, okay, it's the same thing, but let's look at 25. Let's add more details. 25 minutes to 26 minutes.
That we need to focus on the fact that we are one half of the soul. That's very important to understand. I am just one half of my soul. Right? There's another person, my soulmate, who is the other half of that soul. We are one soul expressing itself in two different forms. Right? The masculine in our case and the feminine form. And we need to remember that because it's that entire soul that has free will. And when you go through the process of a soul union, you come to understand how important it is that the entire soul has its free will rather than just its two halves. Because it's that entire soul that God created in the original form that has the most power.
There's no creation.
That entire soul that can grow beyond the condition of at-one-ment to God to the condition of at-one-ment with each other, and even beyond that condition as far as it is known, can grow beyond that condition. And the power of the soul in this unified state is much greater than the power of its two halves.
The only thing that he says so far that is true is that the power of the combination of the pair is stronger than the sums of each. That's the only thing that's called synergy. But this is a fairy tale. The idea of soulmates is great. I went through it. And so at this point, I would like to give specific examples, which I discussed in details in recordings online, under the book recordings on my on the YouTube channel. Soulmates. Okay, let's begin. Let's begin like this. When I began to take things out of my body, whether it were physical or not, physical or non-physical, physical things were taken out of my body, including metals and bad luck, metal or other things, including snails. It's all in the books. And at that point, the plant lady, the plant healer that I met in Africa, whom I gave an example of earlier, pulled metals out of my body. Out of thin air, and I had to analyze what I saw to determine whether or not what I saw were real, and to think about my overall perception. She went to my body and took certain things out of that were blockages for me perceiving the entire truth. And one of the things that we talked about was soulmate. One of the things that she mentioned, it wasn't really a discussion, she was just reporting. Soulmate. I don't know, life is almost comical in a way, because it's like a joke in a way. It's serious, but at the same time it's also a joke because it's been manipulated. At that point, she told me, because I kept asking questions about my soulmates. Where are my soulmates? Where's my soulmates? And she said, at that time, there's only one, and that she is white. She said that my soulmate was white. Oh, you gotta stop me. Or stop her. In any case, a year later, I met this, I met this lady, this young lady in Mexico, and at the capital, DF, the Autobuses Central de. Okay, it was in DF. It was Distrito Federal de Mexico, whatever the specific name is, I can't remember. But at that moment, I made some stupid mistake. I made a stupid mistake, and at that moment, I was still caught up in my soul, my part of my soul, and the mistake was made. And when she asked me where I was from, all right. Details are details. You can find out for yourself if you want to know. I don't want to go into it. But in any case, when I left this girl without getting her phone number, she looked at me and was like, if she was confused, and I left, and at that point, that was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. Not getting that girl's phone number, or at least her contact. You would have thought that if I had listened to that plant healer about this soulmate being white. Okay, white is just a color, right? But this girl was sort of like, people could be indigenous and be called white, but right? But in any case, I later in San Luis Potosi, Real de Catorce, when my soul chastised me about not talking to the girl fully, I knew, and I also had a feeling of the council manipulating, and later there was evidence of it when they specifically said every time we take someone from him, he just holds on to it. I can't tell you, almost not a day goes by that I think about how does this Emma girl that I screwed up with, didn't get her contact, how could she have been my soulmate? Right? At that time, let's not get too emotional here. Let's just tell the story. But let's just summarize here. Overall, soulmates are an approximation of where you need to go, of what would help you reach the next line if you listen to your soul. So, just because you're traveling to another country and you have an opportunity is presented in front of you, there are no accidents. And that was a specific statement that was uttered to me. There are no accidents. Emma was put in front of me for a reason, but I screwed up and I lost her because the dark forces manipulated events so that I would never find her, even though I went back to Mexico 3 consecutive summers looking for her, stationed at the exact same place. But so that would be an example of a soulmate lost, right? Maybe. And thinking back, this was before the plant healer gave me her message of there's only one. The only one that comes close, it was Emma. But a part of me was like, really? Nah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. I told myself. But in any case, a year later, I was given a message when I was in bed. I was resting, and I saw the message was being given a rose, a delicate rose. A delicate rose. It was literally a delicate rose, and it was a scene of the rose coming from above, and I went to receive my rose. Delicate rose. And that is my wife. You saw a picture of her. That is the lady with whom I'm now. That is the delicate rose. So, having screwed up, I got another chance. And when you get another chance, don't screw it up, people. Don't screw it up. And I was not about to screw it up again. So the question is, Emma, soulmates, or the present Ren, soulmate? It really doesn't matter. You're trying to find someone who is approximate. A.J. Miller talks a lot about soulmates and other things, and especially God's laws. God, and some of us prefer to call it source, does not like rules. Rules are impediments, because source, or God, likes freedom and already knows what to do and not to do. So laws and rules and regulations are for people who like to cause harm. People who don't get it. They need more warnings and told what to do. That's how it goes, people. So someone who is more aware does not need to be told not to kill an animal for food. Someone who is more, come on, why is this going blank? Someone who is more aware does not need to be told not to harm himself. So all these laws are not laws of God. These are laws of darkness. True laws of God are evident, and they don't need to be repeated every time, because they're just natural consequences, natural effects of what is. So the same thing applies for soulmates. And the thing to be remembered here is that you don't live in paradise. You are not in the final dimension. Because you're not in the final dimension, you don't need to be perfect to get out of here. Because you don't need to be perfect, the soulmate idea, the whole premise of the soulmate is that there is a perfect other part of you. Perfection is not required to return to paradise. If you come close and you advance, that's important. With my example of Emma and Ren, I'm still going back to source, even though I screwed up with the whole soulmate thing, right? And who knows? You don't, The thing is, I tried, and I'm trying, and I'm being matched by source. So the whole soulmate idea is great. If you find someone who is quote unquote perfect match, that's great. But if you haven't, if you don't, it's okay. As long as you don't find someone who is worse to your development. The person doesn't have to be perfect. The person doesn't necessarily have to be vegan. But the potential inside, for the person to improve, has to be great, and your soul knows.